All right, Chairman, Joint Chief Staff, Index 350, 3500-01H, off, Enclosure D, Joint Training Responsibility. Office of Secretary of Defense, Undersecretary of Defense for the personal readiness developed and ensure oversight for the policy programs to ensure the readiness of the U.S. force for peacetime, contingencies, crisis, and warfighting developed, ensure oversight of the DoD training policies and programs, including cost-effective application of the training system and technology developed, ensure oversight of the training policy and programs to ensure the training programs resources are sufficient to ready and forces manage, provide oversight of the CE2T2 implementation with the planning program budget execution process to include the program goals and objectives of publication. Chairman of Joint Chief of the Staff, the Chairman provides advice to the President and advice to the President, Secretary of Defense regarding the joint training of the U.S. Armed Forces to accomplish strategic contingency plan preparedness to conform with the policy guidelines from the President and Secretary of Defense. Advice to the Secretary of Defense the joint training priorities identified with the common commanders, combat commanders, formulate policy, technical standards, execution, action for the joint training U.S. Armed Forces, 10 United States, Title 10 U.S. Standard Code 153. A5B, designate Joint Staff J7 as Joint Staff focal point with the boundary, coordinate with the Joint Training Policy issue with accordance with the Combat Command Services of the National Guard, Bureau of Cooperative Support Agencies, and Office of Secretary of Defense, or other Joint Staff Directories as collaboration with the Joint Staff G7, the condition for the Combat Command Cooperative Support of the agencies retain the responsibility assessing and recommended improvements for the joint training readiness assessment activities conducted within the functional areas reference O policies provide advice, plans and policy participation of cooperative support agencies in joint training events and exercises examine, assessing the performance and established standard for determining the readiness, identifying resource for the shortfalls across the DOT MLPF.P construction, Title 10 U.S. Standard Code 193B. Validate joint training capability requirements, reference L, and provide the advice plan with the policy for the participation of the Combat Command with the Cooperative Support Agency, the Joint Training Agency, events, exercise the report of the Joint Training publication of Combat Commanders, Agency Directors, and making recommendations to improve training, reference L, establish the policy guidelines for the Joint Training system and Joint Training Information Management System that makes the Joint Training Information Management System available to the Department of Defense Component Chief of the Combat Command missions, reference L. Provide advice plan with the policy of the Joint Education Annual Training Exercise with the concept of development to assist the U.S. Armed Forces through the plan conduct sustained campaigns involving irregular warfare-related activities, operation, maintain universal joint task list of the mission, essential tasks, support the IW-related activities, operation reference AI, serve the lead of the DOT, point of contact with the NEP, coordinate with the NEP, exercise of the participation, address the joint training program, support efficiency trend, reference L. For the Department of Defense training, coordinate with the conduct of the integrated with the operation of the training, reference L. The manager for the CE2T2 program with under the authority of the oversight of the U.S. Security Secretary of Defense, PNR, reference L. Joint Staff. Assessing the chairman of the Joint Staff, formulate with the policy of the Joint Training U.S. Armed Forces, J7, formulate with the policy, coordinate with the military education training of the members of the U.S. Armed Forces, formulate with the chairman Joint Training Guidelines and Chairman High issue technical training issues. Annual reviews in accordance with the service action of the combat commanders, high issue training requirements, economic with the Joint Training Information Management System support the development of actionable training plan with the components to support with the combat command's mission capability requirements. J7 support the combat command, serve with the National Guard, supporting agencies, and implementation of the chairman Joint Training Policy guidance for the execution of the joint training programs. Subject for the authority oversight of the U.S. Secretary of Defense, serve with the CE2 T2 program manager of the budget execution on behalf of the combat commands and serve with this review of the approach of the combat command, serve with the designated the joint education program and events of the CE2T2 funding managed joint exercise transportation program to provide oversight of the manager's execution of the DCCEP J7 advocates joint training program that identify the issue trend for the addressing joint training support capability deficiencies. Joint staff will coordinate, validate, track the joint support requirements for the combat commanders IAW reference L and U. Okay, reviews of the analyze, make the recommendation of the MLFPF P chain with the recommendation related to the training, learning, leadership, the training, leadership, and education. Maintain the GNTC accreditation process for the server and server component of the training organization program certification process. Server component training sizes to support the organization and/or programs. Synchronize to coordinate with the national education program participation through the CEP and GAEP. Serve as the chairman and representative of the NEP planning forums. Monitor compliance with the functional training assessment requirements for the CEP events. J and staff at the appropriate O. Coordinate exercise support requests for the Joint Training and Information Management System for the participation force of the worldwide joint training evidence for the support of the combat commanders. Requirements managed for the coordinate with the significant military exercise brief process. Connect the support with the joint training where they may operate with as part of the Joint Combat Task Force support with the chairman, combat commanders requirements. Ship the Joint Training Representative of the Cjcsi Review Team and Cooperative Support Agency Review Team. Step for the construction of the Agency Mission Essential Task List for the Cooperative Support Agencies assigned combat support mission proper articulation of the condition of the standards for those mission proper integration with the Joint Mission Essential Task List for the combat commanders. Coordinate conduct with the Joint Training Information Management System User Advisor Group. Conduct the conduction for the Universal Joint Training Task List Advisory Group. Coordinate with the Joint Training Issue relate with the Joint Intelligence, ensure the intelligence operation fully integrated with the NEP, CEP training events as well as joint policy doctrine procedure with the coordinate with the DoD intelligence community support with the select with the GEP training. Coordinate the Joint Training Issue with the relay with the Anti-Terrorism Force Protection Combat Command. Coordinate with the Joint Training Issue with the relay with the operation in through the cyberspace. As coordinate your joint training related with the readiness J3 and J7 and Y. Monitors and joint combat and exercise with the planning with the process through the integration of the DOD and irregular threats with the irregular warfare capability with the active requirements as requested as in assist for the combat command to develop and the managing irregular warfare scenarios. Z, coordinate with the development of joint multinational logistics related to training requirements for the joint training activities. Coordinate AA, coordinate oversee for the communication system, education and training related to advanced distributed learning initiatives as joint schools, J6 and joint J7. Monitor compliance with the cyberspace training and assessment with the requirements of the DoD exercise with the J7. The monitor with the compliance with the training assessment with the requirements for the approved joint concept, in particular with the joint operation access of the Department of Defense exercise support integration with the concepts learning into joint training events. Develop specific procedure for the initiation, development, and approval of the maintenance of the Universal Joint Task List task J7. Manage Universal Joint Task List, task development, maintenance, and coordinate with the overall process of the AAW reference X and Y. AG, provide guidance for the standardization certification joint course for the contributed with the Office of Expertise joint with the IAW reference C and AK. Publish a list of joint exercise, joint certified scores that have the directive relative to the definition of the joint manner with the discretion points on with the JQS, J7. Maintain joint inventory with the certified course of the reside with the joint knowledge online. I ensure that the joint knowledge online supported delivery, distributed joint training capability, synchronized joint knowledge online, the development and delivery with the relative and tailored measure the distribution training product, and ensuring that the BLTP with the joint training stakeholders established to publish from the procedure for the process of the inter-organizational coordinate with the training exercise with involved with the DoD civilian partners. Act as DoD interagency coordinate with the training exercise and support with the DoD civilian partner stakeholder requirements. Chairs the quarterly DoD interagency working group and coordinate with the multiple agents participating in training exercise J7 and coordinate with the development and delivery of the joint training and management system JDEIS. UTDT, JLLIS program and software J7. AO leads the development and sustaining the joint training system and architecture's technical standards, provide the expertise, adversary support with the strategic planning support with the joint training community with the joint training related module and simulation issues. AQ to develop and maintain distributed closed networks to support the training and testing and information related with the capabilities in and through cyberspace. For combat commands, unless otherwise directed by the President or Secretary of Defense, the combat commanders conduct the joint training assigned with the forces and give the authority direction subordinate with the combat commands and force the necessary to carry out the mission assigned with the command, including overall the aspect of the joint training reference M. Coordinate and improve the aspect of administrative support, including control resource the equipment and inter-organizational training and the discipline necessary to carry out the combat commands assigned mission reference M. Provide the TRO assigned with the Reserve Corps force of the reference M, and they incorporate the appropriate NG and SPP activity, exercise, engagement, exchange, and then support with security cooperation object for the relevant review, validate, and improve the national NG SPP support of the mission intentional tasks remaining consistent with the security operation objectives. Coordinate and improve the NGSPP personnel until the unit is participation is applicable to joint training exercise, include the appropriate National Guard force for the combat commander joint training exercises. Coordinate and improve the appropriate and available force for the training support for the combat commander's requirements. Provide the directed training ready for the combat command. Ensure the readiness of the assignment headquarters staff, the designated perform joint training force. Function components, headquarters staff, the reference E. Ensure all exercises are reviewed to determine the SMEB reporting requirements. Ensure the reporting of the SMEB data of the complete the joint training information management system. Submit to the joint staff the J7 no later than 50 days prior to the established critical cancellation date, reference ALM and AM. Ensure that whenever you undertake exercise with other activities with a military force in the nation, the combat commanders and the AOR of these exercise the activities attendant with the combat relationship with funding will be mutually agreed upon between the commanders where the situation occurs in or bordering particularly political sensitive area with the political sensitive participation must be documented with the SMEB. They include the points of contact with the combat commander, the appropriate combat command, whom it has been coordinated with the done. Political sense of the area, the exercise, other activities, visual correspondence will be used to form coordination. Coordinate with the military training off of federal real property IAW requirements specified in reference and an annual review of the Joint Mission Essential Task List, defensive readiness requirements system of the September 30th of September. Integrate lessons learned with the planning and update with all the plan for the future exercise success. The Chairman's high issue training issues. Whether capability shortfall identified with them, including mitigating the activity of the combat joint training publication. Incorporate the IW-related concept of the military training exercise of the planning of the maintaining mission essential task. This support for the IW-related activity operation reference AI. Incorporate realistic cyberspace conditions that include the robust red team with the operation and to exercise the order to develop the capability of the TTPS to sustain the combat of other essential operations that denied manipulated cyberspace environment. Regular incorporated evaluate the cyberspace operation training the object for the development and refinement the ability to operate in a denied manipulated environment to execute with the community continuity of the operation plan. Due to the capability of the cyber range of the exercise support should be maximized. Integrate the cyber mission force into the planning and execution of the joint training environment events. Establish and conduct integrated operation training. The reference L with the MV. Incorporate the functional training requirements, information, operation, cyber, operational contract, support, etc. into an individual collective training as necessary to meet the mission readiness requirements as directed with the Department of Defense Chairman, Joint Chief of the Staff guidance. W. Incorporate available the Joint Knowledge Online BLTP or equivalent resource for the ongoing individual staff training exercise event as feasible. Use the material and to prepare the agent audience for the participation in the collective training exercises. Use your sponsored contact with the Joint Knowledge Online in its current annual develop update with the published execute the command of the joint training publication and joint training programs for the staff and their forces assigned to their command. 1. Geographical combat commands of the Joint Training Publication, Joint Training Information Management System by 15th of March for the course consolences to the Combat Command campaign plan development schedule. Function to be the Combat Command publication, the Joint Training Publication, Joint Training Information Management System, if the 15th of May of the consulants with the Combat Command campaign plan development schedule. Submit the out-of-cycle support request for the Joint Staff J7 to provide the training exercise support that is necessary to meet the emerging readiness requirement IAW, the process that described in reference H. So you request the exercise participation of the force of the SME individuals when the unable to soar for the internally assigned force of the individual reference AH and AO. Standard exercise of the request should be submitted with the Joint Training Information Management System Forces Participation tab on the 3 years of the event executions of all the Joint Force Coordinator, the Joint Force Provider, opportunity to reconcile requests for support with the other training facility requirements. 2. The emerging joint exercise with the force of the request for those developed within 1 year of the event of the execution must be submitted to the Joint Training Information Management System in conjunction with the feasibility support message for the appropriate force provided. Message sent with the emergent exercise request for the address of the situation, specific description of the source forces required, multiple priority to the multiple requirements for the risk not sourcing. All right, AA, coordinate with the joint staff, the J7, and synchronize the joint training information management system integration and development of the product and the concept development into the training events, maximize joint force development, initiate the initiatives during the training events, manage the combat command participation in the NEP and CEP with the JEP events, participate in the NEP events with the sign with the ASD, Assistant Secretary of Defense, HG, or German, establish the conduct, deliberate, observation, validation, profit, capture key, overarching cross-cutting observation less than no later than the ANDEX plus 45 days, exported, validated, the TPOs, DPEs, the Joint Training Information Management System into the JLOIS, review the access of the commanders' summary reports and other similar after-action report to determine the capture for the gap, the deficiencies, life, and the best practice for the force of the planning events, the Joint Training publication. Review the update as required for the proof of the TPAs and MTA for the Joint Training Information Management System monthly basis for the Defensive Readiness Requirement System monthly assessment review update with a taking advantage of the training exercise of the real world operation war games to assess for the proof of the Joint Publication Report gaps, the inadequacy of the Joint Tracker and the Joint Staff. J7, the serve of the primary members of the CE2 stakeholder leadership team to nominate applicable training course with including the joint inclusion of the joint knowledge online and serve the joint staff of J7 if the joint staff development of the courses in which the combat command has subject matter expertise. Service component commandments. Service component commands. Service component commanders responsible to derive the roles fulfilling their service support functions. Service component commanders are responsible to their assignment with the support of the combat commander to develop the service of the mission essential task list, supporting the combat commander of the joint mission essential task list, support joint training events when tasked with the force of the joint force corps. Coordinate the training program for the service component to meet the joint mission requirement of the team necessary for the combat commander to train and direct for the component for the other service in joint operation with the service component commander that has or may has assigned primary responsibility for the which the service component facilitates capabilities that are suitable to coordinate the developed budget request for the service in the joint higher headquarters to support the joint training events for the cost assigned with the support of the combat command. Missions, coordinated development mission for the Joint Training Information and Training Band with the support of the Joint Training Requirement of the Combat Command Joint Training Publication. For the primary interface between the service and assigned with the support of the Combat Command for all matters pertaining to the Joint Training to include the source of the assignment of the person with the Combat Command requirements. Ensure that all exercise reviewed to determine the SMEB reporting requirements. Ensure that the reporting of a reportable event and the SEMB data is completed in the Joint Training Information Management System support submitted to the Joint Staff of J7 no later than 50 days prior to the established critical cancellation date in reference to AL and AM. 6. U.S. Special Operation Command, in addition to the Combat Command responsible listed in paragraph 4 of the USSO-COM, service alike with the training requirements under Title 10 U.S. Standard Code, Section 167, USSO-COM, Joint Trainer, Joint Force Trainer conducts a specialized course for the instruction of the officers and enlisted the personnel. They validate the training requirements, ensure they are inoperable with the equipment and force of the monitor, preparing the Special Operation Force to assign with the Combat Command to conduct with their assigned mission to lead the development of the Joint Security Force, assist in the training to educate the individual units. USSO-COM, the Joint Force integrated with the developed common special operator for the joint task and consider conditions standard. 2. Training commanders staff the individual with these common tasks under the common conditions, specific coordinated standards. C. In coordinating with the assigned service component to develop a joint training program to prepare joint capable SOF and the staff of the combat command to identify the key component capability requirements. D. Nominate coordinated service component commands and the combat command joint training priority for the training program support sites with the associated joint tasks for the joint staff of the J7 and the joint JNTC accredited. JNTC accredited with the certification nominates the applicable training course with the inclusion of knowledge online and for the joint staff. J7 and the joint course of development of the course of the USSO-COM has the subject matter expertise. R7, Joint Force Provider. The combat commanders are serving as the Joint Force Provider of the military departments are responsible for the extract the exercise of the training force to include the subject matter expert individual requirements of the request for the Joint Training Information Management System. Determine the source of viability, provide the response back to the requesting organization of the using the Joint Training Information Management System when the event is scheduled to take place for the 1 to 3 years in advance of the date of the request for the submittal of the force request for the Joint Training and Information Management System capture for the joint capabilities requirement to manage or tool for the count the exercise of the force capability requirements as part of the total force request demand with available the force pool with reference to AH and AO. Services. Subject to the authority, direction, and control of the Secretary of Defense, the provision of the Title 10 U.S. Standard Code, Chapter 6, the Secretary of the Military Department, the recruiting, training, organizing, equipment, and interoperable forces, assessment of the combat commands. Before deploying force within ship of the train and ready for the employment of the joint shore capable forces prepared to meet the theater entry with the operational requirement of the support of the joint force corps focus joint training prepare conventional forces for the joint employing the high intensity training requirements recommended with the Joint Staff J7, the tab 8 for the combat chaired joint chair with the Chief of Staff joint training publication and the joint training information management system coordinate approved with the appropriately available active the reserve force for the training of the combat commander's requirements. Incorporate the realistic cyberspace condition that include the robust red team of the operation exercise in order to develop the capability of the TTPs to sustain the combat of the other essential operation for the denied manipulated cyberspace environment, regularly incorporate the available with the cyberspace operation training the object for the to develop and refine the ability to operate and deny with the manipulated environment and execute the continuity of the operation plan with the use of the other capabilities for the cyber range of the exercise support should be maximized. Constitute the employment of the routine integrity of the cyber mission force into the planning and execution of the joint training event designed with the operation procedure for the joint training, coordinate with the military training with the Federal Real Property IAW with the requirements specified in reference A, and nominate and coordinate with the service component of the command and combat command joint training priorities, training program support site, and the joint staff J7 and the joint NTC accreditation certification. Identify justify separate funding with the requirements for the support of the joint exercise program, incremental funding with the separate funding line with the support of the disbursement of the Office Secretary, CET2T account manager for the distribution and execution of allocated funding, integrate with the Guard Reserve the force capability and requirements of combat commander, serve with the cooperative support agency joint training publication. Participate in NEP and exercise the assignment of the Assistant Secretary of Defense or the Chairman and support the joint integrated operation training to the maximum extent with the possibility of reference to L. Serve with the primary member of the CE2 stakeholder leadership team of the joint national GNTC corporate board and nominate applicable training corps for the inclusion of the joint knowledge on the line. This is the joint staff J7 and the joint course development of the course in which the service has subject matter expertise. Combat support agencies. Combat support agent collaborative with the support for the combat command with the agency mission essential task list preparation conduct mission analysis of the global theater with the UCP, GEF, and JSCP task campaigns contingency plan presidential or Secretary of Defense directive of the identify the mission of the mission essential task list of which link the development of the agency mission essential tasks supporting the tasks supported by the command operational supporting mission plans presidential or Secretary of Defense directives that integrate with the combat supporting agencies training events the program in respect of the combat command joint training program to the maximum extent possible focus agency preparation support with the combat command develop a training plan with the prepare the agency the personnel with the combat command mission to achieve the readiness except for the combat support agencies training event with the support of the combat command mission to design the operation procedure for the joint training, fully implement the 4 phases of the joint training system, develop a customary-based comprehensive plan detailing the training of the objective to meet the assigned mission for the combat command joint mission essential task list requirements normally done with the development of universal joint task list the measure of the agency mission essential task list joint training publication combat support agency development agency mission essential task list should closely link with the combat command and link to the task of the combat command joint mission essential task list. Accordingly, joint training event and participating with the combat support agency should be scheduled and published with the respect for the support of the joint training publication, respect for the combat support agency, joint training publication, and joint training information management system. Annual review of the agency mission essential task list by the 30th of December. Annual publish the joint training publication and joint training information management system by 15th of July or in the consulants with their combat support of the agency campaign support planning development schedule review of the combat command joint training publication tab B to identify the combat support agency tasks to deem necessary for the combat commander to complete the assigned mission except for the chairman and high issue intensity training issues if they have with applicable to where the shortfalls are identified, including mitigating activities aging for the training publication, and participate in an EP exercise at the time of the Secretary of Defense or the Chairman, participate in joint integrated training event for the maximum extent of the possible, incorporate realistic cyber conditions, including the robust red team of the operation extra in order to develop the capability of the TTP to sustain the combat for the other essential preparation, operation 9 manipulated in the center cyberspace environment, regularly incorporated the value with the cyberspace operation training objective to develop refined ability to operate the denied manipulated environment of the execute for the continuity of the operation plan, G for the capability, set for the cyber range for the exercise support, should be maximized, coordinate with the military training on the federal real property IAW for the requirements specified in the reference AN. Nominate the applicable training corps for the inclusion of the joint knowledge, assisting with the joint staff, the J7 and joint closure, corps for development, and corps for the combat support agency has subject matter expertise. The National Guard Bureau, that joint activities Department of Defense of the National Guard Bureau, serve for the training with the communication with all joint training of the joint education and joint readiness material of the pertaining to the National Guard, Army National Guard, and the United States, the Army National Guard of the United States. Between the Departments of the Army, the Air Force, and the 2 of the 50 states of the Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, the District of Columbia, when requested, consistent of reference to AP with the Chief of the National Guard Bureau, provides input with the Chairman of the Combat Commands on the matters pertaining to the National Guard Force of the National Guard Joint Force, the headquarters, state collaborative with the text, with the support of the Combat Command of the National Guard, Mission Essential Task List, Preparation Command, Support Task of the Combat Command, Mission Essential Task List, Joint Mission Essential Task List should be capability with the BA based on the task name of the authorized authority data of the Universal Joint Task List can serve as approved of the task list used for the Defensive Readiness Requirement System, AE, and the Education and the Joint Training Information Management System. Advise the combat commander of the mission essential for the defense for the support of the civil authorities operational plan for the President, Secretary of Defense, the director to identify the National Guard mission for the mission essential to include those of the Joint Mission Task List focused on security cooperation, security secretary assistance, security sector assistance and cooperative with the SBPP workforce, the development linked to the National Guard mission essential task, supporting the task support of the command operational supporting mission plan, the theater security the cooperative plans, and the President and or Secretary of Defense directives. Facilitate preparation training plan with the National Guard Bureau of the personnel with the unit for the support of the individual over the combat commitments capability requirements outlined with the joint GSCP combat support plans and develop the directive for the fund for the resource for the combat to the support of the joint training recommendation chain for these levels necessary for the combat commander's requirements to periodically reassess the report from the Defensive Readiness Requirement System, education effective of the National Guard training of the Joint Mission Essential Task List, effective training conducted in the National Guard JFHQ, Joint Force Headquarters State of the DSSCA or SPP and capabilities. Ensure the Army and Air National Guard unit with the personnel with the training within the state with the AIW instructor provide force and unit with the personal training to support the joint operations. Monitor and assist the state of the organization making the training the operation with the Army National Guard units and personnel. Facility support with the joint education training members of the National Guard to meet the operational requirement of the combat commanders, servers. Supervise and administrator of the National Guard's active guard and reserve program that pertains with the assisting officer of the non-commissioned officer of the joint staff of the combat command standing in the joint training forces and annually publish the National Guard Joint Staff, the Joint Training Publication, Joint Training Information Management System on 31st of July. Nominated through the Military Department, the training program supporting the staff of the sites of the Joint Staff of the J7, the JNTC accreditation certification. Nominated for the applicable training corps, including the inclusion of the Joint Knowledge Online, and for the Joint Staff of the J7 and the Joint Corps for Development and Corps for the National Guard Bureau with the head support expertise. View the TPAs, MTAs of the unit, the Joint Unit Identification Codes, and the Joint Training and Information Management System monthly based with the line with the Defensive Readiness Requirement System and monthly assessment, the review update, and participation in the NEP exercise with the corner with the Assistant Secretary of Defense Headquarters for the Chairman, and participate joint with the integrated training events to the maximum extent possible. Provide policy guidelines for the Joint Training System, the Joint Training and Information Management System, the National Guard youth to provide the policy guidance for the Joint Training and Information Management System, National Guard Joint Forces Headquarters States to the support of the training exercise of the security cooperation, civil support, operations of support, the National Guard staff of the National Guard Joint Forces Headquarters starting training, state training with the Joint Training Staff, Joint Training System, Joint Training Information Management System, established policy with the Joint Training National Guard consistent with the Chairman of the Joint Training Policies. Promulgates with the National Guard procedures interagency coordinated during the civil and support training exercise that involve the DoD, the non-DoD agency, the department. They review, they analyze, makes a recommendation to the MLPFFP. Training with the recommendation related to the joint training, job education, National Guard individuals or forces. Coordinate with the tracks for the joint training capabilities requirement of the National Guard Joint Forces headquarters state the supporting of the joint force for the intent of the joint identification code, reference Q and AP. Support the whole government preparation of the domestic integrated the operation acting as the National Guard interagency training coordinator to include the coordinator of the integrated operation support of the estimate domestic requirements requestment of the local and non-government non-department of defense stakeholder development and provide the requested export portable capability of the package of emulating new National Guard Corps domestic operation capability of the combat commands meeting with the air theater with the country with the enhancement plans. AB provided recommendation of the chairman of advocate for the National Guard, unique for the homeland, the defensive support, DSCA training with the initiative for the National Guard for the support of the capability of the Department of Defense strategy, the Homeland Defense, Civil Support, Homeland Defense, Civil Support, Joint Operation capability of the government and security sector assistance and implementation strategy. Coordinated with military training off the federal real property IAW with requirements specified in reference to AN. Alright, Joint System Acquisition Program Manager of the Program Manager for the Joint System Acquisition Programs are responsible as part of the Integrated Human System Planning approved for developing the training plan with the system that address the manpower personal training or MPT concept of the mismake with the form of the joint training system of the plan of the combat support agency, the specific training, although the consideration should be given them in the development of the combat training materials develop their joint system. The training system plan should include the minimum of the manpower personnel training, the requirements for the system operators, maintaining review of the administrator, including required number of the officers enlisted with the communities that have the when the individuals from the teams will be trained appropriately with the joint training system should be designed and interoperable, compliant with the joint training architect for the training that is directed and described in the Office of Secretary of Defense Joint Staff of the policy, the guidance of the reference AQ. Alright, enclosure E, Part 1, references.